I get asked this question with greater regularity than almost any other. Nate, what are 3 jazz songs I should learn? I'm a total beginner. I'm kind of intermediate. I'm advanced, bro. What? For those on the outside looking in, jazz has a long tradition of memorizing tunes. Standards. So much so that if you get on the bandstand at a jam session, if they ever have those again, and you don't know a tune, or you have to read it out of a real book.
You have to look in the real book for my shining hour. You got to learn that sheet, man. You don't know any tunes.
So there's an entire catalog of tunes to learn. And luckily, your humble servant has been at Smalls, although mostly at Cleopatra's Needle. But week after week, year after year, in the years when I'd just gotten out of jazz school. And tons of smaller sessions. Both those at bars and restaurants that friends might be running, and informal ad hoc sessions that would just take place at somebody's home or practice space. So I've got a good working memory of the tunes people called. The absolute must-knows for beginners, and the nice-to-haves for intermediate and advanced drummers. Of course, I'm only going to be able to give you 9 out of hundreds. But hopefully this will whet your appetite and awaken your excitement. Coming up, the best jazz songs for beginning, intermediate, and advanced jazz drummers. Stay tuned. Beginner tune 1. Autumn Leaves. By the way, if you came up in New York, you're 100% going to recognize these tunes. If I name one and it doesn't bring back memories of playing it hundreds of times at jam sessions, I've failed you. Anyway, Autumn Leaves might elicit eye rolls from the veterans, but it's absolutely a solid tune to know, especially for beginners. The form is AABC, meaning you've got an 8-bar phrase, the A, which repeats,
the autumn leaves drift by my window, the autumn leaves of red and gold.
Then you got the B section.
But since you went away, the days grow long, and soon I hear old winter song.
Then instead of going back to the A like some tunes, it has a contrasting last 8 bars. This part.
But now I miss you most of all, my darling. Oh, and autumn leaves start to fall.
It's also easy to play because you can just swang through the whole thing, and nobody's going to look at you weird. Beginner tune number 2, Solar. If you're a New Yorker, tell me you didn't either just groan or nod in agreement. Solar might be the most called tune in New York jam sessions. Unlike Autumn Leaves, which is 32 bars, the entire form of Solar is just 8 bars. There are a few figures you want to catch at the end of the form, but they're pretty easy. And now, a word from our sponsor. Guys, today's episode of the 80/20 Drummer is brought to you by me, the 80/20 Drummer. More details at the end of the lesson, but if you've been checking out the channel for a minute and want to go deeper, I've got a free 3-video mini course that'll jumpstart you playing if you feel like you're stuck on a plateau. If you're interested in playing jazz standards but want to make your jazz beats and swing feel stronger, the second video of the mini course shows you in much greater detail how to do that. But I don't share these anywhere on YouTube, so you need to be on my mailing list to get them. To download them free right now, or watch them on the site, just click the link below the player, enter your email address in on the next page, and bam! We'll send them to you. Anyway, back to the lesson. Okay, anybody want to guess what number 3 is going to be? I'll give you a hint. You never once escaped a session without this tune being called. Give up! Anyway, Stella by Starlight works both as a ballad and as a straight-ahead swinger. Most of the time, I heard it played kind of Chick Corea trio style. Swung, but lightly, and maybe with brushes. Like Autumn Leaves, Stella is 32 bars. But instead of AABC, where the final 8 bars are unique, it's AABA, where the final 8 bars repeat the melody from the first 8 bars. Right, time to talk about intermediate jazz tunes. This is a little abstract because I doubt anybody's going to be around saying, Nate Smith, intermediate drummer, here's my card, here's my card, here's my card. I guess when you need somebody who's not going to drop a beat but also won't outshine the rest of the band. Anyway, onward to the top 3 jazz tunes for intermediates. Intermediate tune 1, Inner Urge. Come on, you knew this was coming, right? So Inner Urge is a bit more advanced, both because it's usually played kind of up-tempo and broken, think Jack DeJohnette, and because its form is a little stranger. It's 24 bars instead of 32. It also doesn't really repeat. It's got an angular melody based on a motif that kind of transforms as it progresses throughout the song. It also switches from broken swing to kind of straight-ahead swing in the last 8 bars. Intermediate tune 2, Windows. Windows, probably most famous for the Chick Corea trio version from Now He Sings, Now He Sobs, introduces the jazz waltz and also textural playing. Instead of banging through the whole form, Windows gives you the opportunity to play broken and experiment with texture. It's also 48 bars long, by my count. Tapping it out on the desk and playing it in my head. Somebody check me on that. Finally, intermediate tune number 3. Say it with me. This is All the Things You Are. You youngsters might be more familiar with this version. But let's hear something more traditional. With all the things, we have a tune that's AABA-ish, but with a phrase extension. So the last A is 12 bars instead of 8. That's why the form is, check me on this, 40 bars long. There's also that outro everybody plays, which starts from what would be bar 39 in the form, truncating the last 2 bars. But don't worry guys, it's only on the head out. And of course, Meldau took that to outer space. God, I sound like an FM jazz DJ. It's all been heading here. Right, let's introduce the 3 most commonly called jazz tunes for advanced drummers. Tune 1, Serenity. So when we get into these advanced tunes, some of these are literally tunes more experienced players will use to check whether a new player is really all that. So with Joe Henderson's Serenity, we get these pesky non-repetitive figures at the beginning of the tune. It's also got a weird form with 14 bars. And make sure you don't miss the traditional way to end the song. Advanced jazz tune number 2, Ornithology. The Charlie Parker catalog. The angular melodies, the weird phrase extensions, the figures everybody's supposed to hit. That's why Ornithology, which is arguably the most called Charlie tune in New York, is on the advanced list, even though it's quite a bit older than some of the other tunes. Paradoxically, Ornithology, which is based on a song called How High the Moon, is actually 32 bars, even though it sounds all phrase extension-y. But there's also an ethos here in New York, at least amongst my generation, that the real cats know the older tunes. It's hipstery, but in a good way. Do not get caught flat-footed by not knowing this tune. And now, it's time for the final advanced jazz tune of the night. Actually, can we just see a stitched together montage of Bruce Buffer saying that? By the way, ask me about the Bruce Buffer mount escape sometime. Jiu-jitsu. Anyway, advanced tune number 3, and the final tune of our canon. Of course, it's going to be Benny Golson's Stablemates. Would you prefer traditional? Or modern? Stablemates is a faker's worst nightmare. It's purpose-built to eviscerate people who don't know it really well. For starters, the A section is 14 bars. 14 bars, bro, who does that? Then it's got these pesky little offbeat figures you have to catch, which vary and aren't predictable. Then it switches to a little jazz rumba. And I mean that is distinct from the Cuban song style called the rumba. That's a real Roomba, just so we're not getting it twisted. But there's this tidy little drum beat that's often called the rumba. Probably culturally appropriated back when everybody was stealing everything and nobody cared. Not that I'm saying that's good. Anyway, that's what you need to know to play this tune. Then instead of AABA, Stablemates is ABA. So if you mess up the A section, you don't get to repeat it to redeem yourself. Mercifully, the last day is identical to the first day. And traditionally, you loop the rumba on the way up. Anyway, that's our crash course on the 9 probably most called jazz tunes in New York by level. Have I left out any big ones that I should have in there? Heck, I can think of a few right off the bat. Dolphin Dance, In Your Own Sweet Way, whatever that tune is that goes ba da 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 ba da 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 da. I think it's Joe Henderson too. Couldn't have too many Joe Henderson in there. Anyway, leave a comment below. And as I mentioned at the top of the lesson, this week we're brought to you by me, the 80/20 drummer. And because I've used so much of other people's content in this video, I'm not gonna sell you anything. It's gotta be non-commercial, but I do wanna give you something for free. If you dug these jazz standards, you're getting more into jazz, you will find a detailed tutorial on how to make your jazz playing better, along with how to make your drumming better in general, your beats and your solos, completely free by clicking below the player, entering your email address in on the next page. You'll also get on my mailing list. You can hear when my courses are released, but I'm not allowed to say that. You guys, it's been real. Just one of these weeks I want to say it's been fake. You guys, it's been fake. But it's been real. It's actually been real. See you again next week in another lesson of the week. Ow! 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 For context, I have a hematoma on my forearm because my friend pole vaulted over me and landed his forearm against my forearm this morning. Had to go to the doctor. It was the whole thing. It was the whole thing.